All right, Jamal, what else?
I think he disconnected.
That's it. He's here like tearing off the wig off his wife. He's like,
You ran him off.
I'm going to use that for my YouTube page. That's a good question.
Someone in the comment section said, pretty haired men be testing people. That cracks me up because you wouldn't believe how many people in Florida, especially where you live, a lot of dudes totally are rocking the long hair to where they can pull it up in a pony.
Yeah, you mean the man bun?
Yeah.
Not combat effective. You'll get that torn off in a fight.
Yeah,
That's
maybe.
it. Groups like Chabad, in terms of wig, because the more Haredi groups don't wear spectacular wigs. They specifically wear these wigs where you see the stitching in the middle. It looks like a football they have in their head. And the reason they do that is to show that it's a wig. While Chabad doesn't follow it like that. The women wear the most extravagant wigs, and it looks like real hair. I'm not an anti-wig person. I think that as long as you're following the halakha, in putting all these things like, oh, well, you're nullifying the whole purpose of the halakha. We don't even know exactly what the purpose is, ultimately. It makes sense that it's because it's covering what's called an irva, that you shouldn't be attracting attention to yourself. But like Jamal said earlier, the whole purpose of hair, just being alone, something that's sexual, compared to everything else we see in the world, we've become so desensitized that that's not the case anymore. However, we still have a law to cover our hair. This is not something that's left up to local custom. Like certain things, there's some things according to halakha that are left up to local custom, but it has to be specified.
What's the stance on men? I mean, I know apart from payas and no, not wearing wigs, just in like long hair in general. In terms of apart from payas and the Nazarite vow, like what's the stance? Is Judaism against men having long hair, or is there a particular stance or perspective on that?
Yeah, that's a cool question. I don't think we ever covered this in the show. But peyot aside, long side locks aside, and the notion of a nazir, of a Nazarite, putting that aside. Actually, regarding having long peyot, the Rambam writes that there's actually no mitzvah to grow out one's peyot. That the prohibition, that the averah is not to destroy or to cut the peyot too short. Too short in the sense that when you rub your fingers over it, you don't feel any hair. But anyways, regarding men having long hair, regarding the actual halakha, I think it's the same. It's brought down in Shulchan Aruch and Mishneh Torah of not shaving the sides of one's head and leaving the top high just because that was an act that was tied into idolatry. I think it also mentions, if any of you guys ever seen like a Jet Li movie on how the old Kung Fu Chinese guys used to cut their hair, that they would not only cut the sides, but the back and a little bit of the front, and then they would have like this long strand of hair coming from the back of their head, almost like a big kippah. But there's a statement in the Talmud that talks about that a king, a priest, and a judge should always have trimmed hair. And for those Yemenite enthusiasts out there, there's actually a group, some sort of tribe amongst the Yemenites called Habani, that it's a group of Yemenites that have particularly long hair. Right, in their case, like long curly hair. You guys could look it up. And I think there's a mention somewhere about some sort of not trimming the hair in the front of your face, almost like a soup bowl haircut in the front. That's also prohibited because it was, again, a form of idolatry. All these things were initially practical to some extent. But even in Israel today, you'll see a lot of religious guys. I mean, I guess not a lot, but many of the Breslov, Nanach guys, a lot of the people who live in this yeshuv called Bat Ayin, it's more like a hippie style yeshuv. You see a lot of them with long hair. As a matter of fact, when I worked in Jerusalem, I used to work with Hippie Ezra. I don't know if you guys know him, Ezra Michai. Shout out to the Jerusalem Soul Center. And he, as long as I've known him, has always sported long hair. And he's a frum guy and a rabbi. Being that we're on the topic of hair, I remember there's a midrash. I think it's a Kabbalistic midrash that speaks about when Shlomo Melech met the Queen of Sheba, and he looked at her legs, and then he said, basically, girl, you have to shave your legs because hairy legs are masculine on a woman, something like that. Anyways,